Hello, everyone. I'm Andy, and we have Andrew here as well. We're the co-founders of Lyric Cycles, and we're super excited to have you guys here. We already got quite a few people joining us, and I'm sure there's going to be more popping in throughout. And this will be posted after, so I'm sure we'll get lots of you guys in the replay as well. So thank you so much for joining us. We're really excited to kind of introduce you guys to the graffiti today and take you through all of its amazing features, and of course answer all of your questions as well, because I'm sure there are a lot out there. So we just want to start off with a quick intro to Lyric Cycles. Then we're going to walk you through some of the graffiti features, and then we will jump into the most frequently asked questions, and you guys will have a chance to ask yours as well. We want to keep this really interactive and fun, so feel free to participate in the chat and let us know what you think about everything as we go through it. And if you do have questions, ask them in the comments section, and we'll get to them in the question section. So first things first, where is everyone joining us from? If you want to just pop that in the chat now. Looks like we've got quite a few people responding already. We got some from Vancouver, Kansas City, Atlanta, Quebec, Florida, Coquitlam. Wow, all over. This is awesome. Well, again, thank you for joining us. So we're going to start off just giving you a quick overview of what we have in the works right now. So the graffiti is going to be launching on June 30th. So that is next Thursday. Now, we've already sold about 30% of our first production run. So the response has been incredible, and everyone is super excited about this. So if you are pretty positive that you want to get your hands on a graffiti, you're going to want to put a reservation down. And the way that you can do that is on our site. I will pop the link in the chat in just a minute here. But for $100 US or 120 Canadian, you basically reserve your graffiti, and you get early bird pricing locked in. And you also get to kind of skip the line. So you're going to get early access to purchase on June 29th before it officially goes on sale June 30th. And we do anticipate selling through these pretty quickly. So if you do want to hold your place in line, we definitely recommend putting that reservation down. So let me just pop that link in the chat for you guys right now.
Good to see some of our current customers are on as well. Hey Joe, good to see you, buddy. Gordon, good to see you on there. Who else we got in here? Jimmy, thanks guys. Thanks for showing up.
Yeah, this is awesome. This is our first time doing this, so far technology is working. So fingers crossed it keeps working. Now, we also, as many of you are aware and probably participating, we are currently doing the Graffiti Giveaway, where we're giving one lucky person a graffiti. And the way that we just want to give you guys a quick overview of the contest in case you are not yet in the contest, you can still enter. We're going to be doing the grand prize draw next Tuesday. So you still have a week to rack up some points. So I will put the link to enter that in the chat here in just a moment as well. But just a quick overview. Basically, the more points you get, the higher your chance of winning. And we will just be doing one grand prize draw for the graffiti. And it's going to be random, but the more points you have, the more entries you have in the draw. So the way that you can collect points is by sharing with your friends. For every person that you refer, you get an extra 20 points. So that's really the best way to do it. For showing up today, when you stick around, we got a secret word. You're going to get another 20 points for this. There's a questionnaire you can fill out. You can share on Facebook, lots of different activities to get you points. So definitely enter that, and sharing's caring. So definitely share with your friends as well. So I'm going to put the link for that in the chat as well right now for those who have not signed up. Okay, and as I mentioned, we'll be doing the grand prize draw next Tuesday, and then the person with the most points is also going to get a $500 credit that can be applied to purchase of an e-bike, and then anyone who gets 50 points is also going to get a $100 credit. So lots of great stuff to win within this contest. So hopefully you guys will participate. All right. So I think let's just jump in then. So Andrew, why don't you take us through kind of the Lyric Cycles overview and tell us how it kind of came to be?
Yeah, so obviously a bit of a passion project. I don't if you guys ever get a chance to know me well, I don't do anything sort of halfway. There's and I definitely have a passion for climate change and sort of doing the right thing, and I really do believe in the power that these light electric vehicles have to make the right kind of change. Kind of the advancements in electric power has really made it so we can create really interesting form factors, right? Bikes have always kind of been built around like pedaling dynamics, and as soon as you put more and more powerful engines on things, you can really create interesting light vehicles that can do a heck of a lot. There's an easy way to do an e-bike company, and there's a hard way, and we have definitely picked the hard way. And we very, very much believe in the hard way. And what I mean by that is, just about anybody can take a bike frame and slap a name on it and start selling stuff. And we really wanted to look at every single part that goes into a bike like this, get our own pieces manufactured where required, pick the best of what we can use, and create the right kind of form factor for each thing that we do. And so that's kind of our view on how we do it. And, if you're to ever get a bike and feel like you're not satisfied with something, we want to hear from you. We're going to keep like refining our products towards like what people want, because if you're feeling a certain way about something, we're probably feeling the same way. We probably noticed it ahead of where you're noticing it, because we really, really, pay a lot of attention into how we build these things. So, I'm sort of big into product design and development and manufacturing, and I know where my skills lie. And when I was looking for a partner, I was like, oh yeah, I need someone that compliments me and really kind of hones their craft really well as well. And so that's why Andy is here, because she definitely knows her craft in well, everything that she does in terms of kind of marketing, sales, social media, etc. Arnav, who couldn't be here as well, he's our mechanical engineer and industrial designer as well. He's been incredible. Toro, who's been done a lot of work for us in terms of concept design and things. So there's a lot of people that have like come together and have put their best into building this company. And yeah, we're pretty excited to start bringing out all these products to you.
Yeah, awesome. Yes, we're all huge nerds here, just nerds in different ways that complement each other.
Yeah.
Okay, so why don't we jump into the graffiti features then? So Andrew kind of mentioned we looked at the market, what was out there, and really like how we can make it better. And we had so many conversations with a lot of you and other customers to really figure out, how we could improve what was there. And so the graffiti is really one of the fastest e-bikes in its class. The minimum top speed is 38 miles an hour, which we'll jump into a little bit later. And that's an off-road mode. One of the most powerful e-bikes as well, with the 2,500 watt motor. Plus we have the dual battery upgrade for extended range. There's regenerative brakes, a rubber belt drive to reduce maintenance. So tons of great features. So Andrew can walk us through all the details and kind of how he went about selecting all of the best components to really make the graffiti what it is.
Yeah, for sure. So I think just in terms of like all of the different pieces. So low maintenance. We see a lot of Canadians on here, and thanks for showing up, Canada. Sweet. We've not got the best of weather here, and so we needed something that can kind of work through a lot of different conditions. I ride my bike year round, and I know what wet weather can do to it. So we started off saying, okay, well, yeah, we want a belt drive on it because belts last 10 times longer than chains. We wanted a very like enclosed engine. Mid drives are good for a certain thing, but your low maintenance option is definitely hub drives all the way. All of our componentry and the way that we've kind of done the design is to make it as waterproof as possible. And when we sort of approach performance, there's ways that you can, again, like sort of do it the easy way, in which most manufacturers, you can buy basically a kit of componentry, which is like display, controller, and motor and battery all together. And they just kind of give you the performance that they give you out of the box. We said, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to look for, we're basically going to go after the torque figures, the speed figures that we want, and we're going to put the components together and program the firmware for ourselves that is going to give us the performance that we want. And so we will be one of the only manufacturers you'll see that is developing our own firmware for these things to give us the performance that we get out of them. So that's kind of how we approached it. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, then I think we can probably jump into some of the most frequently asked questions now. So I see some coming through already. Keep them coming. We'll touch on a few of the ones that we have gotten countless times and just take you through that. And then we'll get into the specifics that are already coming in. And if you have questions, continue to pop them in the chat there. So first things first, 38 miles an hour is very fast. So does it really go that fast? And the truth is that it's going to depend on what you weigh. We had one of our test riders at 140 pounds hit actually 41.5 miles per hour. And then one rider at 250 pounds hit 38 miles an hour. And so it kind of depends on your weight, where you're riding. But in choosing our top speed that we're marketing, we went with the one that everyone can achieve, which is the 38 miles per hour. So you might even actually go faster, which is pretty cool. Now, keep in mind, it's only legal to go 20 miles per hour on the bike paths. And so, Andrew, can you maybe walk us through the details about what's legal and what's not?
Yeah, so it sort of depends on what area you live, and so e-bikes in Canada and the US there are federal guidelines and regulations, but the enforcement is usually at the municipal level. So in some cases at the state level, and so it's really going to depend on your local area. You're really going to need to know what the what the regulations are for e-bikes, but you're also going to need to know what they are for pathways, because certain pathways will have a speed limit. And I'd like to say that we know all about every single one of those that's there, but we don't. We planned the graffiti around like having the capabilities when you want the capabilities, but being able to keep it legal when there's a requirement to do so. So our road and off-road settings. So this is actually a feature of the Egg Rider display that we use. We love the Egg Rider because of the fact that it has this capability on it. It's a really simple button in the middle of the display. You press it and you're in road mode. And so that's 20 miles an hour in the US, 32 kilometers an hour in Canada, same speed, but it's just a conversion. And it will hold you to that. And as soon as you click into off-road, it's now in unlimited. And yeah, to Andy's point, I'm 205 pounds. I can easily get the graffiti up to 40 miles an hour. We put it at 38 because just because some heavier riders get to around that place. We wanted instead of being a company that markets these big figures that no one can hit, we'd rather sort of put out what we think it is as an average, and have everyone be able to be like, oh shit, this goes, sorry about the language, goes a little faster than we thought. Because that's actually what you'll say.
Now, we do have someone asking in the comments that would they have to register this then, because it does go that fast. But as long as you stay within the legal mode on the paths, you're good, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. And so if you can regulate it down, then which we can on ours, then that's what you can do. Now, there's a question in there to say, is there a class 2 sticker? So it's a Canadian-made bicycle, so it actually comes with the Canadian 500-watt limited stickers on it, which is what is legal for Canada. But we also ship it with the class 2 stickers, so you can actually paste it over that spot, because different regulations depending on which country. So you'll receive the bike with the ability to put the class 2 sticker on.
Perfect. Okay, while we are on this topic, I saw
there's been a couple questions too about whether or not you have to register this as a moped.
Yeah.
So no, as a class 2 bike and or e-bike in Canada, it doesn't have to be registered as a moped.
Okay. And then while we're talking about the speed, we had this question come from Welch. How does your e-bike peak at 4,700 watts, but only go 38 miles per hour?
So speed in electric motors is not limited by power. So you can put a heck of a lot of power into an electric motor, but the power or the top speed is limited by the voltage of the battery. So if this had a 60-volt battery, it would have a higher top speed. If it had a 72-volt battery, it would have a higher top speed. It's actually limited by voltage. your power itself is like wattage is a matter of the amount of current that goes through the battery plus the voltage.
Okay, cool. So hopefully that answered your question, Welch. And I think that moves us nicely into how it handles hills, talking about the power here. So like we mentioned, it does have more than double the wattage of most e-bikes in its class. Some people get a bit hung up on hub drive versus mid drive. So maybe, Andrew, if you want to take us through how what we've put together here is going to handle hills and sort of is more optimal for hill climbing.
Yeah, so that's like probably one of the largest debates on the internet is like, what should I buy, hub drive versus mid drive? And you'll get proponents for both. The mid drive people come out pretty hard when hills are involved, and they always kind of tell you, oh, you absolutely need a mid drive to get up hills. Watts for watts, at say 500 watts, a 500 watt hub drive will not beat a 500 watt mid drive up hills. We got around that by just putting a stink load of power through a hub drive, and then you don't have to worry about it anymore, because at what the Graffiti is at its top speed, it's kind of around 150, 200 cc motorcycle. So most people that are riding something like that don't go, oh, I'm not going to get up this hill. That's the feeling you'll get on the Graffiti as well. You just put the power into it, and it really literally throws you up hills.
Yeah. If you guys haven't watched the demo we have on YouTube, you can see Andrew lives in Squamish, and it's very mountainy there, and he's just flying up these hills. So if you want to see it in action, you can go check out the YouTube demo.
Yeah, so we'll do a couple of questions when they're related, because some of them might be.
Yeah.
So like, how many amps is the controller? It's a 50 amp continuous, and it goes to 90 amp max. We've got another one here saying, can we get more power by adding higher voltage to the batteries and some into the same controller? No, you can't do that one. We don't recommend doing this at all, because if you were to put that through there, you'd like basically the components that all have to go together, being the batteries, battery management system, controller and motor, and wiring all have to go together. So you would actually, at a 72 volt battery, you'd melt both the motor and the wiring.
Okay. All right. And then I think we have one here kind of continuing down sort of the power of everything, and what's the weight capacity. So the capacity is 325 pounds, which does include the weight of the bike. So you're looking at around 250. Now, Andrew, correct me if I'm wrong, but you could get up to probably 325 pounds safely, but you'll have a little bit less hill climbing capacity and potentially a little bit less speed. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, so I mean, the reason why there's weight capacities on e-bikes, and I don't know if anybody has ever explained this to folks before, but it's limited by the heat that gets generated in an electrical motor and the heat that gets generated by your braking system. So if you've got a heavier rider going up a long sustained hill, the motor will like start to build up temperature. There's temperature cutouts on the motor in the Graffiti. So if it does reach a certain temperature, which the controller is always measuring, it will cut out. So if you are a heavier rider beyond the weight capacity of the Graffiti, it might cut out on you on a hot day going up a long sustained hill. But if it was on a flat pathway, you're going to be entirely fine. It's basically never going to hit that point. And it's the same on a long sustained downhill. Braking on any brake component is sort of designed to a certain level. And on most bikes, you get to the limit of braking capacity going a certain speed down a hill at a weight capacity. So again, if you're on a flat pathway, you're never going to come up with that problem. But if you've got lots and lots of hills in your life, it can happen.
Gotcha. Okay, awesome. So let's talk range then. I know there was some questions coming in about that. Now, like kind of everything, the answer of how far this will go, it depends. So it's going to depend on the rider weight, and if you're towing anything. It's also going to depend on how you're riding. So if you're going full throttle versus full throttle, probably like what Andrew, the way he wants to ride, versus a little bit of pedal assist, a little bit slower, the way I would want to ride. But so Andrew, maybe you can tell us how we came to our range estimates.
Yeah, exactly. It's actually interesting in the Egg Rider itself. It actually will track all of your stats through your ride and will show you how much energy you're using at any given time. And so we can actually figure out what an average watt hour per kilometer per mile is. So you really, like, going at what Andy says is my speed. You really do use like 4 or 5 times the amount of battery per mile than you would if you're going just like your average pathway speed. So kind of pedaling along at 15, 20 miles an hour, the Graffiti goes for a really long ways, right? Mm-hmm. To a measured around, 80 to 100 miles. It's kind of, it really hurts your backside before you're running out of battery. But if you're going full out, right, then you're getting somewhere in and around like 40 miles, right? But that's going like, that's going at 40 miles an hour, right? Yeah.
So you can get somewhere pretty far if you're going that fast. You can get there quick.
Yeah.
And we, for our general estimate, like if you guys are comparing, obviously you're shopping around, take that into account when you're looking at other people's range estimates. We've got a nice chart on our product page, and we compare everyone else based on the battery and the motor and all of these things. And the way that we kind of estimated it was based on a 175-pound rider at the average of 15 to 20 miles per hour with the pedal assist. So doing that, you're going to get 80 to 100 miles with our dual battery upgrade. And we also have what you're going to get for those other bikes as well. So just keep that in mind as you're shopping around, because everyone's going to say the top range, but you're only going to get that in certain circumstances. Okay, and I jumped over one question, so let's just come back to this. We get a lot of questions about, will the bike fit me? So the ideal height is between 5'4" and 6'4". So the seat is extended, so you can kind of position yourself accordingly. And I believe, Andrew, we have had people at 5'2" ride it. And they were still able to touch the ground, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think anything above 6'6", it might be too little.
Yeah, I mean, it's designed, it has a motorcycle style design, right? And so most motorcycles come in one size, and the longer seat allows you to sort of like adjust your seat position to where you want to sit. Again, the Graffiti is not designed for pedal dynamics. There is a question in here about whether or not it has pedal assist. It does. Turn your legs, the motor goes. The Graffiti is powerful enough that you really don't have to pedal all that much at all. But you do just sort of sit further back the taller you are, and you sit further forward the shorter you are. Right at around kind of like 5'4", you start to be more on the balls of your feet. 5'2", you are a little bit more on your toes.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Now let's get into a controversial topic. We get a lot of comments about the suspension. So I'll let you take this one, Andrew. Why is there no rear suspension?
Yeah, and there's a question earlier too about whether or not it has front suspension. It does.
Yeah.
It has 120 millimeter front suspension. It's air sprung, so rebound damping. Why is there no rear suspension? So the design was really made for urban commuting, and yeah, the different road conditions in different places. Now, when again, back to what we're all about at Lyric and how we want to create our products. But I really do believe in very good suspension design, and you know, the components that we're going to use when we make a rear suspension bike that's like this are going to be very high performance parts. They will increase the cost of the bike significantly. A lot of the bikes out there that you see that have rear suspension that are similar to this, they don't use good suspension components. So they end up being more like a pogo stick than anything. And they send the bike flying up in the air because it's just basically a tightly wound spring. Because in fact, how it's sort of designed where the battery sits, there's not enough room for proper travel of a suspension there. So if you wanted to design for proper suspension, you've got to put the wheel much farther back out, and then you want to design around a suspension component that's going to be in and around $800-900. So it really increases the price of a bike like this to do suspension right. So and the other thing is we are designing all of our rear racks and things to be stabilized on the rear dropouts, which you can't do with rear suspension. So our ability to have you know, luggage, side bags, child seats, things like that, it's not possible to do that very well with rear suspension.
Okay, awesome. If there are any follow-up questions, feel free to ask away, but hopefully that kind of explains everything. So I think we did have some more of the more common ones, but there's quite a lot in here, so I think we should just jump in. Okay, so we talked about, I'm just going to pull some up on the screen here.
Just going to go from the top, kind of one by one.
Yeah, here, I'll just put it up on the screen for you, and I'll let you take this.
So, yeah, I mean, again, as a performance company, of course, we love acceleration. We've spent a whole ton of time on the acceleration curve of the graffiti and trying to get that right. I would say that there has not been a single person that has gotten on this bike that has hit the throttle at full speed and has said, "Man, is that boring."
Probably the opposite.
I had a friend get on this weekend. He got on and he's like, "I think that's actually too fast." So the question, will I be able to adjust the delay? So once we've set this firmware now that we've got it to the place where we really love the performance of it, no, there's not going to be access to get in and make changes to the firmware. It's actually quite complicated. So there won't be a way to adjust the delay or any settings within the firmware. You have to somewhat trust us that we have dialed it to the level that we've gotten it to now.
Okay. All right. Let's go with, I think you've probably answered this one already, but anything else to add on that?
Yeah, so it's 2,500 watts nominally. So it means it can handle 2,500 watts continuous through the motor. 4,700 watts is the peak.
Okay, cool. We have talked about suspension. Let's go. We had something about here. So we have talked about it being a single speed, and it's a thumb throttle, not a twist throttle. And I think this was a bit controversial as well. So Andrew, do you want to tell us why we went with the thumb throttle?
Yeah, this one is another one of those ones like hub drive and mid drive. There's fans of both. It is like fairly difficult to make everyone feel supported. You do have to eventually make a change. The reason that we chose thumb throttle, two different reasons. One, performance. We actually were getting better performance out of thumb throttle parts than we were out of twist throttle parts. Now I know that may sound crazy, but we were getting a lot more voltage variation in all of the different twist throttle parts that we were trying, and we can't have bikes going out there that have varying performance. If one person races their graffiti against the other, we want them to have similar performance, and we really were getting like so much variation in the twist throttle parts that we decided not to use them. The other being aesthetics, and that we don't have a lot of choice on what grips we put on a bike when we use twist throttles, because in e-bike parts right now, there's not enough variation in what we can do in design wise. And I hope it shows, but we care very much about design as well.
Okay, awesome. Let's talk about replacement parts here. So Ryan is asking, it's difficult to find replacement parts lately. So how are we going to handle that?
Yeah. So previous to Lyric Cycles, I was with Ford Motor Company's e-bike group called Spin Mobility. It was helping to bring sort of new vehicles to market for them. One thing that was very, very big was working out the number of spare parts that we had to put through all of the different warehouses there, and knowing exactly like what percentage of spare batteries, grips, etc. are required per a vehicle and what wears out first. We've used almost the exact same types of numbers to figure out what spare parts we want to have in inventory and where those will sit, so that we can easily get those out to our sort of network of mobile fix folks that will be able to provide support for us. So yes, we know that that's a big thing. We definitely don't want it to be that if you've got a problem with your bike that you're waiting for us for 6 months to give you a new battery for whatever reason. We're designing around being sort of service first. So we're really designing around making sure that we've got all of that stuff in place. I think a lot of what e-bike companies are doing is getting too far ahead of themselves, getting excited about the numbers of sales they can make. But for us, we've defined limited production runs around what we can capably support.
Yeah. Okay. We got a question here about the rear rack. So and I think in general, I believe there were some other questions just around other accessories and when we're going to have those available. So we are sourcing all of those things currently, and before the graffiti ships, we will have those available for sale. So likely what you'll be able to do is add on any accessories to your order and we can ship it all together. But Andrew, do you want to talk about the rear racks that you've been working on?
Yeah, so there's actually two different rear rack extenders that we will have out. One is just sort of an extender that makes the rack go from being 8 inches long to 15 inches long, and is meant to sort of be able to support about 30 kilograms, so 66 pounds is what it will support. And it's got a lot of sort of slots and holes on it. So there's a lot of different ways that you can attach things to it. And as well, it will have some legs that you can buy separately that can go on it, which will then attach to the frame. That then takes it from being a 30 kilogram weight capacity to 50. So that's 100 and, what is that, 120? Trying to do the math.
Sorry.
No, 110 pounds. right? Yeah. Sorry, Canadians here. And so, and the idea with that one is that you'll be able to attach child seats and things to it. So at 110 pounds, it's got a pretty healthy weight capacity. We do not suggest you use it as an additional seat.
Disclaimer.
The other rear rack extender, it actually has tubular outsides and side panels to it, so that you can attach bags to it. Both of them will have the ability to attach a cargo box on that will also be available. So that one's kind of a 12-inch by 15-inch by 12. So it's about kind of a rectangle that sticks on the back of it. So good for taking stuff to the beach and fishing equipment or whatever the heck you're into, grocery shopping, all that. Yeah.
Awesome.
Mounting points for water bottles, bags, etc. Yeah, so I think the bags, I think that sort of covered that point.
Yeah.
We did have a surfboard rack on it on the weekend to carry a surfboard around. So we've got that as well. That attaches to the rack extender and or cargo box, so it actually can attach to the side of the cargo box as well. There's going to be 2 places for water bottles and or lock mounting. On the underside of the down tubes, kind of facing the wheel, and actually on the underside of the top tube will be places to sort of mount water bottles and things.
Okay, perfect. And while we're talking accessories, Gordon is asking about purchasing a second charger. That was one of the questions we have got a lot. The charger that comes with the bike is a single charger. So if you're buying the dual, you will have to charge them separately. And it takes probably, because I know this question is it's going to come, but it takes about 4 to 5 hours to charge from empty, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can choose to buy a second charger should you wish. I think you'll find when you've got the dual battery model that that may be something that's of interest to you. It's not something that we're using a lot when we're taking them out for rides. We do just use the single. So, but it will be available for purchase for sure.
Cool.
Yeah. And I think that's Joe's question as well, which does cover the fact that we've got accessories for it. So I think in addition to that, we will have grips that will be on there. So different, because again, I kind of touched on that with the twist throttle. We love all of our different fancy grips that we can put on and change up the look. We do have custom seat options, working with an amazing seat manufacturer down in California who does all of our seats for us. You can pretty much come up with whatever color you want and stitching pattern, and we can have that made for you. So bikes are very much customizable to your liking through what we're coming up with in options that you can buy. Phone holders. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, we got a couple. We'll start with this one actually. So Gordon is loving the belt drive. And Andrew, can you speak to if it is smoother than a chain drive?
Obviously we put the belt drive on because we love them. They're amazing. We're using a pretty incredible company, Veer, who's created the belt drive system for us. It's a custom size for the graffiti. They're pretty cool because actually, if you know anything about belt drives, you normally have to split the frame to make the belt work, because it's usually like a single piece. That really messes with frame integrity, and we don't like that, especially on a high performance vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
We wanted to offer the belt, and Veer's got this amazing split belt system that's put together with rivets, and so the belt goes around the frame, not the frame around the belt. It is it's so much smoother than a chain. You can ride the thing through mud, and it basically just like squishes the dirt out of the way. Never requires any lubrication. The way that the teeth are designed, it doesn't catch your pants, so it doesn't need a chain guard, which is why we don't have a chain guard on the graffiti. It really doesn't require like a whole bunch of like finagling to get the tension right and things and designed on it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just always so smooth and quiet. And I think you'll notice that in general with the graffiti, and the fact that we use a sine wave controller, which you're not going to find on hardly any other e-bike in the space, and a belt drive. The bike overall is almost entirely silent. It has that very satisfying Tesla-like sound to it when it moves.
Yes, love it.
Yeah.
Okay, we have a couple more questions about range here. Range anxiety is a thing. So 30 miles a day, not a problem. As long as you're not. There was another question about like going full out. So as Andrew mentioned, if you have the dual batteries and you're going like pedal to the metal, you're going to get about 30 to 40 miles. But you know, if you're going slower than that, around that 15 to 20 speed, you're going to get 80 to 120 miles. So Welch, you're going to be fine as long as you aren't doing the 38 the full way. You probably could get the 30 miles, but if your range anxiety might take over if you do that.
Yeah. Well, and going at because the electric XP's got I think a 500 watt motor on it. So if you were to use it at the same power, 500 watts, yeah, you could go forever.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Let's talk about regenerative brakes. Andrew, can you walk us through how those work?
Yep. So, and I think there's a question earlier too about does the motor have plastic gears or metal gears in
Yes.
it? And we're going to address that one at the same time. We use a direct drive motor, which is not a geared hub motor. I don't like and don't love geared hub motors. They make a terrible noise, and they've got way too many moving parts in them, both being either plastic and or metal gears. And it's not a huge fan of them, so we didn't use them on the graffiti. So a direct drive motor has no gears in it whatsoever. It's basically a single cast piece that's got magnets around the outside of it. So the whole thing is its own gear. So it just basically rotates around its own axle, and it's got magnets in it. Only those motors have the ability to provide regenerative braking. The way that it works is when you apply the brakes, even if you pull them in just a little bit, the regen brakes go on. It actually then starts putting a reverse current. You'll even see the display go up. The voltage will increase on the display. You'll see it, and it starts actually going back and puts a reverse current into the battery, which charges the battery as it slows down. It's basically the exact same system that a Tesla has on it.
Right. And the regenerative brakes are going to they're going to top up about 10% of your battery capacity.
Yeah, you'll get more in a ride where you've got more hills and things. Obviously, if you're going down more hills, like there's more time where you're going to have more heavy braking. And so at more heavy braking, you'll get more power going back into the motor. It requires a pretty upscale controller, which is one of the parts features that we've put on this in order to make that work. So in order to make it really effective, like we've had to use some of the best of the motor controllers out there.
Awesome. Okay, we have a couple questions about the tires. So what type of tires and the tire width as well?
Yeah. So the type of tires, they are CST big boat. So they're basically a city tread tire. They're a 20-inch fat tire. So it's a typical 20-inch fat tire rim. And so yeah, it's and I think the question is any thorn buster liners. No, we don't sell it with thorn buster liners. I mean, that is something that you could choose to put in afterwards. And I guess depending on your local area, if that's something that is, you know, kind of in the way of you in your local area, we would suggest maybe that is an upgrade that you might want to do.
All right.
We'd had a question before, like previously, about what sizes of tires fit on here and whether or not moto tires fit. It's the actually 20-inch bicycle tires are the same, or rims are the same size as a 16-inch motorcycle rim. Go figure. But they are. And we have actually before tested motorcycle tires on these kind of rims. We don't suggest it though, because they're not and folks like to do this, but it can throw the wheel out of round because of the weight of the tire. It's a different centrifugal force that gets applied to the rim. So I know some folks kind of want to do that. We don't suggest it. If you felt like you wanted to go that option, please chat with us about it, because we would rather like help you towards something that you could do, which you know, we would probably have to sell you some kind of custom motorcycle rim package for it. But that would be better than just kind of sticking motorcycle tires on there.
All right. We have a question about the headlight.
Yeah. So the light is 60 watt, 6,000 lumen light. And it's Department of Transportation approved.
Perfect. So you will be safe riding at night.
Yes, you are.
How easy is it to steal the battery?
I am absolutely amazed at what bike thieves are able to do these days. So I'd like to say it is fairly difficult to get a battery off of something, but I think if someone had a crowbar and really wanted to go at it, there would be ways that they could potentially break the batteries off. You know, they lock to the frame, but yeah, I think we would suggest you if you're going to leave your bike outside, we made them removable with a key. I mean, you unlock them and you slide them off. We would suggest that if you're going to park it outside for any period of time, that you take the batteries in with you, which is why we made them a removable battery and not integrated into the outside of the inside of the frame.
Right. And while we're talking security, do you have a lock preference?
So our favorites are the Ebike folding locks, both because of the compact size that they fold down to. They're basically the ones that sort of like kind of caterpillar and fold out. Because they kind of fold down into a nice like rectangular package that can mount where a water bottle would mount, where we would say is kind of on the underside of the down tube. But I just kind of like that form factor, and it doesn't kind of scratch up the bike while you're riding. And it is one of the more difficult ones to get through in tests. You know, those ones usually require an angle grinder to get through, and someone going at it for about 20 minutes to get through it with an angle grinder.
Awesome. Okay, we're going to take a couple more specific to the graffiti kind of performance, and then we'll move into some of the questions about actually purchasing it. Because we've had way more questions than we had expected. So we're almost at the top of the hour. Sorry, Google's talking to me.
One thing we would suggest too. So there's basically like a hidden compartment kind of on the Graffiti, which basically sits between the battery and the underside of the seat, where all of the wiring sits. It's a really good spot to just sort of like sneak something like an Apple AirTag in there, which will then GPS track your bike.
Smart.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we've gotten this question quite a number of times. So can you get the single battery and add the dual later? We don't necessarily recommend it. Andrew, I'll let you speak to that.
Yeah, so in designing the bike out, there's some specifics in the wiring that has to happen to be able to add a second battery later. Not to say that it can't be done, but it is more challenging because otherwise what we would have to do is sell the single battery and basically leave the mounting bracket there, which isn't quite as attractive to sell a bike that way if you just wanted it in a single battery fashion. So we've left the mounting brackets, battery blenders. There's basically like a voltage regulator that kind of goes along with that, because when you've got a dual battery model, it doesn't just use one battery and then you flick it over to the other. It's sort of using them in a balanced way at the same time. And that wiring and what we have to do to set the controller up to do it that way is not just kind of a plug and play option.
Right. Okay, so we will do this last one kind of about the performance here. So does the controller have BMS where you can use Bluetooth and check the health of the cells?
So we don't have a mobile app set up for the BMS specifically. It does have a battery management system, but we don't have a mobile app where you're able to check on that.
Okay, if we didn't get to your question, we will still answer it in the comments, so don't worry about that. Joe, we will be doing one of these for the Voodoo, so stay tuned for that. Now, let's talk about actually purchasing. So there is financing, and we really apologize. We've been having some challenges. We work with a firm. They've been merging with PayBright, and unfortunately, they were having a bit of challenges with their apps. I think everything should be fixed now. Andrew?
Yeah, so we actually just got the note today that the merger is complete. So we're gonna update all of our links, because now PayBright no longer exists. It's basically all been merged over to a firm. Now, that being said, it is now a firm and a firm Canada. So So
let's see how it works.
Yeah.
I guess if you are using it and you have any challenges, just reach out to us. We're always on the online chat. Let us know, and we can connect you personally with a firm to make sure that you can get that done. Because obviously, I know financing is an important piece of this. So
yeah, what I would say is before we didn't have the same kind of logins and merchant view that we now have for a firm. So now it feels like positive movement has been made there. And so, yeah, sorry that there has been struggles there. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Now, of course, you want to know if you're buying it, when are you going to get it? So we are targeting September for shipping. As I mentioned, kind of at the top of the hour, we do have a limited production run here. So if you're wanting to get in on this, we highly recommend reserving now, because anyone who reserves not only locks in that early bird pricing, but they're going to get access to purchase and pay in full on June 29th versus June 30th, when kind of the general public will have access. So reserve, it's $100 US, 120 Canadian. And that, like I said, will get you that early bird pricing and make you more likely to secure a spot. Cost of shipping. So free if you're in Canada or the lower 48 states. If you are in Hawaii or Alaska, we can get a graffiti to you. There will just be an additional charge for shipping. And we're estimating it's around $400 to $500 USD per bike, but we'll confirm that closer to shipping. As I'm sure you guys are all aware, COVID has presented some shipping challenges. So we'll just keep an eye on that, and we'll get the actual cost when it's time to ship those bikes. Okay. And I believe there was a couple other questions that we've been getting quite frequently about test riding. Unfortunately, right now, we don't have dealer networks set up just yet. That is in the plans and in the works. But for now, we can only do test rides in the Vancouver area. So Vancouver, Squamish, Abbotsford. I don't know how far, Andrew, around like the greater Vancouver area. Hey,
I'm going to Abbotsford.
Well,
Abbotsford.
I'm sure you would. I mean, if you talk really nice to Andrew, I'm sure he'd allow you to do a test ride in Abbotsford. Yeah. But yeah, and I think that covers the bulk of the questions we have. Like I said, if you're watching the replay or we didn't have time to get to your question, put it in the comments and we will reply back to it right away here. Now we just want to wrap up with a couple things. So
there's one question on warranty in here that I don't think we touched on.
Okay.
It is a 1-year warranty on all of our bikes. And obviously too, like, we, being a high performance company, we really care about the products that we put out there. And so, like, you know, if it's a year and a day in one of those kind of situations and you come back to us and you're really ticked off and there's really a problem, and we're gonna try our very best to go the extra mile for our customers to make things right. Things do happen, and we really do care very much about putting out a good product. So yeah, we will very much honor that warranty for all the parts.
Awesome. Okay, now most of you have stuck around the whole time, and I'm sure you're waiting for that secret word for the Graffiti Giveaway contest. So here it is, Zeppelin. And I'll tell you why that's the secret word. Well, Andrew can tell you why, but he has an obsession with Led Zeppelin. And the graffiti is actually named after the album.
Yeah, Physical Graffiti. Yeah. Well, it's named after two things. So one, I at one point in my life, I was a graffiti artist. There are bits of my art behind me in different places here, and yes, I have an obsession with 70s rock and specifically Led Zeppelin and so graffiti, Physical Graffiti, their album. Yeah, there's a little bit there. And you get that in some of the names of the bikes that we have coming out, like the Voodoo Child, Lyric in general, the name of the company. Yeah, it's a little bit of personality mixed in. Yeah.
Some fun facts to take us home.
I think Andy's trying to slip in some like Taylor Swift stuff.
We'll see. I think I'll make my way in there. Okay, guys. Well, that is going to wrap us up for today. Again, if you want to get that graffiti, do reserve, which you can do up until the 29th. So yeah, you can go online. I've put the link in the chat here. And if you do reserve, we'll be notifying you on the 28th and the 29th, and you'll be able to purchase and pay in full on the 29th. And yeah, you'll be one of the lucky few to get a graffiti in this first production run. So thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. This was fun and great to see a lot of you on here.
Yeah. And if ever anybody wants to just chat with us directly, like there are ways to book through our website to have like one-on-ones. We do very much appreciate those. We've had some amazing conversations with people, and we really do like the personal touch of chatting with folks, and that can be with either Andy or I, or some of the other folks in the company. We're happy to set those chats up. So yeah, just reach out or book directly on the website.
And honestly, your guys' feedback is super important to us, and I think Andrew made it pretty clear in like designing everything that we really do listen to what you guys care about and want. And so if you have any feedback, let us know, and you might see it in future iterations. So, all right. So you can go ahead and collect your points now in the leaderboard, and we'll have a couple more things coming up for the contest. We'll see you back here next Tuesday when we are doing the live giveaway, and you do need to be here to win. So hopefully we'll see lots of you next week too. All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.